What's up, everybody? It's HBT with Straight Up Wrestling Show, man. Coming to you guys live, guys. I am here live, man, just to talk a little bit about some things, man, that Tony Kahn has said about Mercedes Mone, guys. Tony Kahn has came out and said some things, and this thing has been changing a little bit as the day goes on. I can't believe when I first saw it, but, man, Tony Kahn. Now, I'm looking at another headline. Tony Kahn hails Mercedes Mone as the face of AEW. He said he endorses Mercedes Mone as the face of AEW. Now we're getting reports. We're getting things out that saying that he's saying that Tony Kahn is now saying that she could be a future face of AEW or whatever. But, man, either way it go, this saying things like that is pretty much a slap in the face to the people that's pretty much been there and built your company. That's something that I wouldn't say right away. I definitely wouldn't put that out there. And that's something that Tony Kahn has put out here, man. And wow, if I worked for Tony Kahn, if I was a wrestler in that company and he came out and said something like that, I would feel a certain way, man. I definitely would feel a certain way because there are a lot of people. I'm not going to say a lot of people, but, there's people that's in that company who should be considered the face of that company, definitely, most definitely before, Mercedes Mone, who just came in. I mean, she's not too far removed from being Sasha Banks over there in the WWE. So, to get out here and say that she's pretty much the face of your company, or you would like her to be the face of your company, man, that right there, like, once again, I'm just going to say it. It's a smack in the face to everybody who's been in that company working hard, man, straight up. That right there, Tony Kahn, you need to think, man. He needs to think before he makes decisions, man, before he says things. Because when you say things like that, it's already out your mouth and people are going to hear it. But, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous, and it blows my mind when it boils down to it. Not a lot of people talking about that right now. But that right there is just, one of the craziest things that I saw, and I saw that earlier today. Wanted to get on and say a few things about that, man. But yeah, I just can't believe that he's doing that. I mean, straight up, hey, it's his company. I will say that it's his company. And if you want to do that, then fine. But like I say, man, you have to deal with the consequences of saying something like that. You definitely have to deal with the consequences of saying something like that. And man, you have to look at the morale of your wrestlers that you already have around. How's they going to feel? How will they feel that you coming out and calling this girl the face of your company? And from what I can understand, from what I see, it seemed like he already did that when he was over in Boston. They was on a news station, Boston, one of those TV stations, I think Channel 10 or whatever, but on one of the news stations in Boston, and he was sitting right beside her when he went ahead and said that. And man, you talking about a boost to her ego. And I know he's paying her a lot of money and everything. And yes, she's marketable. And he pretty much stated that he pretty much stated that, hey, all over the world, her name pretty much, it has, what he's pretty much saying, her name holds weight all over the world. And plus, like say, having AEW right there beside her is giving her more weight. And she's the perfect person to be the face of the company. It's just flat out crazy, man. I'm just like, wow, we've been doing, I remember when AEW started, and I watched it for the first few weeks or whatever. I pretty much pushed it off to the side. But since we've been doing the Straight Up Wrestling Show for the past 2.5 years, I've been, following it because, we do the lives and everything like that. We've done a lot of reviews of AEW. But man, if you're gonna come out and say something like that, the person who you want to be the face of your company, you tout a person who's been there since the start, man. Tout a person who's been there since the start, or at least been there the last few years, at least the last 2 years. I mean, that's really pretty much putting the company out here and making it a name, man. Somebody that's sustainable, somebody that's consistent, that's there a lot, man. That's making AEW what it is, and people can attach themselves to that. So, man, who who do we have at AEW? What are the names that I can pretty much say is the epitome of the face of the company? Of course, Chris Jericho was the first big name that was in the company. He was there at the start. You could have had Cody Rhodes when Cody Rhodes was part of it, but Cody Rhodes not part of it no more. So you definitely couldn't have that. So I gotta look at Chris Jericho. Hey, of course he's aging and everything like that, and Chris Jericho might not be the most interesting person in the company anymore. As far as he's not going to be a world beater. He's not going to be dominating the competition. So that may be a reason that you may want to back off of Chris Jericho. I don't know, Tony, but he's definitely deserving of the face recognition, being you coming out saying that he's the face of the company more than Mercedes Mone. Way more, So, and hey, is it his fault that he doesn't dominate the scene anymore? Is it completely his fault? I mean, he's an older wrestler and everything. He's definitely, he gets in shape, he's out of shape. He gets in shape, he's out of shape. Hey, but one thing about it is this: I've seen older wrestlers, guys that get to his age category, and and still be dominant, and that can happen. That can happen if he's booked right, straight up. Hey, the Young Bucks, Nick Jackson, and was it Nick? And goodness sake, man, I can't even think of the other one's name, Nick and Mark or whatever. But the Jacksons, man, hey, the Young Bucks, could they be the face of AEW? Yes, AEW, and I think at one time they pretty much was putting them out there. Now, if Kenny Omega come back, you definitely can run with that. Now, is Kenny Omega the greatest talker on the mic? No, but Kenny Omega is definitely a marketable champion. When he was the world champion, I thought he was the perfect champion. And he's one of these champions that could represent your company, man, and be a big-time marketable person for your company, man. He was on that Nick Botwinkle type, type deal. He just, I mean, he had everything that you want in a wrestler. He's not Ric Flair, because when you look at Ric Flair, you got to take the opponent of the charisma, and Ric Flair could just pretty much get you with his voice, straight up. But Kenny Omega, the essential, the central wrestler, man. He's a great wrestler, and he's definitely one of these guys, man, that you could put out there and say that he's the face of your company. MJF come back, you definitely can use MJF and say he's the face of your company, but you want MJF to be injury free, and you want MJF to wrestle, man. I mean, he has to put on more matches than he has in the past. I'm talking about as champion. But man, I will start at Kenny Omega, because Kenny Omega, he has been getting injured a lot, but when he wasn't injured, he defended that title at least 2 or 3 times a month, man. At least he was always out there defending that title. Great representative of that title. So, man, I definitely will put him as the face of the company. Next, I will, as much as possible, you can't put him as the single, as a single entity of the, as the single faces of the company. You cannot put the Young Bucks as the single faces of the company, but you can put the Young Bucks as, as a tag team. But you got to make that tag team division prominent, and they could be, the face of the company, just like the Rock and Roll Express was the face of the NWA of Jim Crockett Promotions. They definitely was, man. They definitely was at one time. You had the Rock and Roll Express as far as the tag team. Hey, definitely right there with Ric Flair as the face of the company. You had the Road Warriors right there with Flair as the face of the company, man. You had the Midnight Express. They could have been considered the face of the company. That's how good they was. But Mark and Nicholas Jackson. Is it Mark Jackson, man? Why in the world kiss? Whatever. The Jackson boys, man. The Young Bucks. They definitely can be considered the face of the company when it boils down to it. But like I said, yeah, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Chris Jericho most definitely, and who else did I say? MJF. Those 4 should be considered before anybody. Those 4 should be considered quicker, faster than anybody as far as in that company. The most consistent guys. And you most definitely could have had somebody like, I would use one of the power boys, man, Brian Cage, Powerhouse Hobbs, somebody like that. Lance Archer would have been a good representative as the face of your company. If you had him there every week and you was actually using him, he could have been the face of your company. Adam Page be a great face of your company. Great. Adam Page. You definitely could have used him, but he needs to be better booked. His wrestling is good enough. I'm not gonna say it's the top tier, it's the best in the business, but he definitely could have been the face of your company, Tony Khan. I just don't understand, man. I don't understand what you're doing with that by saying Mercedes Mone is the face of your company. You can't even say she's the face of the women's division in your company. Hey, well, if you want to look at it that way, you got to say Britt Baker. You got to throw Britt Baker in there, man. She haven't been around in a while. I guess she's injured or whatever, or she's just doing her own thing. But Britt Baker, you would have said that she's the face of the company. I could have rolled with that, man. I definitely could have rolled with that, and I think your fans could have rolled with that. If you put Britt Baker there as the face of your company. So you have prominent people who have been with AEW for a while, who could be considered the face of the company, and you decide to throw Mercedes Mone over the top of those guys. You have put her on top. You have surpassed those people and put Mercedes Mone there. You can even put Jon Moxley out as the face of your company. Straight up. Jon Moxley, you may not want to do that, but he definitely could be considered to be the face of your company. Even Orange Cassidy, man. Even Pockets. Even Pockets, man. Orange Cassidy, Tang, or whatever, that I done called him Orange Crush. I be joking around, Sunkiss. But, man, yeah, Orange Cassidy could be the face of your company. He's worked for it, man. He's put in the time. He's definitely put in the time to be the face of your company. I'm not going to say Sammy Guevara. I will say Sammy Guevara, but Sammy Guevara still has an image problem, and we know where that goes back to. That goes to his relationship with Tay Conti. He still has a image problem, but you definitely could throw him in there, but that's on a lower scale. But yeah, Powerhouse Hobbs has has a gripe about it. Brian Cage has a gripe about it. Even though you really haven't used Brian Cage, and Powerhouse Hobbs has been misused. Wardlow could have been the face of your company if you booked him right. If you booked him right and made him the superstar that he could have been. Hey, Hook, man, honorable mention. At one time, you had Hook hotter than he was one of the hottest things in pro wrestling too. Wardlow too. As far as over at AEW, they definitely was, that premier, man, that premier face that you could have put out there as far as wrestlers go. Even though I don't think neither one of them have the best talent in the world, but they were so over, and they was getting respect. They was getting eyes on the screen checking them out, man. But that, and what is that, like 9 wrestlers I've named? There's a lot of people I've named. But man, Matt Hardy, I can't really say, he's definitely not what he used to be, but he's been there for a long time, man. So Tony Khan, who is the real face of your company? You don't just bring somebody in like that. I don't care how popular they are. They say, "Oh, you the face of my company. You the face of the company." When they're not familiar, they're not familiar with the fans of, of course they're familiar with the fans of AEW because, just about everybody knows Sasha Banks, but she has not been over there in that company doing work, man. Straight up. It's kind of like WCW when they brought WCW in and decided to make Hulk Hogan the face of the company. What in the world are you doing? Hey, WCW, hey, contrary to popular opinion, WCW didn't start in 1989. When Ted Turner bought it. It started years before that in the 80s. It was Georgia Championship Wrestling, went to WCW, then Jim Crockett Promotions absorbed Georgia Championship Wrestling along with Florida Championship Wrestling and all the rest of the NWA properties, and Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling, which was out of the Carolinas, right down the road from Georgia Championship Wrestling. They had started working together years before he made that transition and went ahead and bought it. But he went ahead and bought it, because you had Ole Anderson, who was booking for both companies. But WCW, man, it's been around since, I think, 84 or something like 83 when they started calling it that or whatever. But I know it was in the, the mid, the early to mid 80s, they started calling it WCW. So World Championship Wrestling. That's been around for a while. But yeah. And like I say, Hulk Hogan, when he came in, they signed him and everything. Quickly. I know he was the most popular wrestler in the world. But to us, the people that had been watching WCW, hey, we didn't care about Hulk Hogan, because if we did, we would have been watching WWE. Straight up. And yes, some WCW people were watching it, especially the younger folks were watching it. But for the most part, I say 80, 70, 80 to up to about 80% of the fans in WCW, they didn't want that. We didn't want that. We didn't care about that. We didn't want Hulk Hogan. We didn't want Randy Savage. We definitely didn't want Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Now, I loved Hacksaw Jim Duggan over in Mid-South. I really did. Great competitor, tough guy, straight up. I loved Hulk Hogan when he was a heel in the NWA, And Brutus the Barber Beefcake, I forgot what his name was, but he was a pretty good wrestler, man, when he was in AWA, NWA years ago, right before he went up to the AWA. He wasn't, he was still a young wrestler when he got to WWE when he first got there, but he did have stops before that, and he was pretty decent. But man, straight up, you got to take in consideration of what you already have, Tony. You really do. Hey, this is not some playground that you're playing with. This is not some army and cowboys that you're playing with. You got some little ring somewhere, and you pretty much just putting guys in there, and you just randomly picking what you like and saying, okay, this right here is the one I'm gonna play with the most. Hey, I'm gonna put my promotion 100% behind Mercedes Mone. So that's what you're telling everybody. Hey, every single thing that I do, as far as giving the biggest push, the promotion, hey, all the PR rep, everything is gonna go behind Mercedes Mone. She's gonna get the big push. She is the one who's gonna pretty much out here say that she's a star. And you other guys, y'all don't mean anything to me, even though you've been working all this time. Y'all don't mean anything to me. And it's wrong. I'm going to sit here and straight up and tell you it is wrong. Doesn't matter how any of us feel about AEW and say, hey, the booking is not good or whatever. Because when it boils down to it, the booking is not good in all of wrestling. All of wrestling. WWE's having problems booking too. Very, very, very bad right now. But man, I just don't know. I just don't know. Maybe he did that because, hey, he's looking for a quick return on this money. I can't blame him there. There's a lot of money they done put behind Mercedes Mone. So I definitely can't blame him there if he wants to get a quick return on his money and saying, hey, I'm going to put her out here as the face of the company. I'm going to put some demands. I'm going to get some demands. I'm going to get people demanding that she comes out and perform, that she's out in the ring, that they want something from Mercedes Mone so I can recoup my investment. I understand that. I definitely understand that if that's the case. Man, I don't know why in the world my mouth is dry, guys, but my mouth has been dry for a while, man. I'm going to have to go get something to eat. But it's pretty much a hot day out here. Maybe that's it. I have no clue. And my wife done stirred up the fans and everything because she shampooed the carpet, and maybe that's it. And it's just dry in here. But I'm trying to get over that. But but yeah, I know a lot of you, man. I know a lot of people out here. They are watching the basketball games tonight. I wonder how that's going to affect the ratings of Rampage and AEW Dynamite, which comes on, and it's going to be a 3-hour show, guys. I don't know if I'm going to actually do it live, but I definitely, I don't know why I keep saying that, but I definitely have plans to watch the show and do a review on it tomorrow if I don't watch it tonight. But yeah, AEW Dynamite and Rampage follows it. So it's going to be 3 hours, man. The show is going to be 3 hours. So, hey, look forward to that. But yeah, Tony Khan, I just don't know, dude. I just don't know. This is something that I don't think you should. I don't think you should have done to come out and say that. That doesn't mean that, hey, she is the face of the company, because you did clarify yourself and said that she could be one of the faces of the company. You did say that, but still, I mean, just a little too early to be saying that, man. And I can see why she has tensions in the back, in the back room. If he said that on a news channel before that show happened, I can see why people got pissed off. And maybe it's not her fault, but I can see why people look at it as a fault, because she could have corrected Tony and said, no, Tony, I'm cool. I'm gonna have to. Or she didn't even have to say to Tony like that. She could have just said, hey, I'm here to work hard and I'm gonna earn my place, guys. I'm gonna earn it, and then when I leave here, before I leave here, everybody will say, hey, Mercedes Mone is the face of AEW. If she would have said something like that, I'm pretty sure nobody would have had a problem with her, because they're all about work, man. All those workers, all the wrestlers, they're all about work. You put in the work, you put in the time, then you should be called the face of the company. You should be one of the faces of the company. You should get all the accolades that's coming to you. But to get everything for free, just before you even step in the ring, they just hand everything to you. Hey, it's definitely not right. And I know a lot of people will say, well, she's earned that in her career. No, she hasn't. She hasn't earned it in this company. But yeah, as far as special treatment, yeah, she's earned that, to get some special treatment as far as, going in there and being booked against big time competitors and everything like that. Maybe not starting at the bottom. She has earned that she doesn't have to go back and start at the bottom. That's the only thing I can really say. But man, yeah. So Tony Khan, man, get it together. That's all I really have to say. Get it together, and hey, give the people the props that deserve the props. Give everybody their just due, man. It's not just about Mercedes Mone. But everybody, hey, I am out of here on HBT. Hey, if I don't see you guys tonight, I definitely will see you tomorrow. I will be doing a review. If I don't do the show tonight live, I do have my nephew here that I'm taking care of. So, and hey, got to take care of the rest of the family. But guys, I will talk to you guys a little bit later and see you. Hey, I know you guys, some of you, I know a lot of people enjoying these basketball games, man. March Madness, it takes away from everything. But y'all have a good evening. Talk to you later. Peace. Stay straight up.